Just in case I say anything out of line today, I don't command. Oh, thank you. I will then play the Fifth Amendment after that. Very interesting topic. Because for some time now, I've been doing a lot of work around sustainability. And so when I saw this, there's a lot to unpack in this. I struggle to see how we can actually unpack this in the time meant to discuss this. Whether we like it or not, legislation and laws have always been a vehicle for social change and social engineering. So that's a known fact that typically there is the link between legislation, sustainability, and national development. But to break it further down, what truly is sustainability and what is national development? So the World Bank says national development is the increase in size and pace of the economy such that more goods and products are produced. Now, what then is sustainable development? United Nations in 1987 actually coined the term to mean creating value in the present so that we do not jeopardize the future. So, if we are now increasing production of services, we must produce in such a way that the present is getting value while the future is protected. And so we leave the earth better than we see it. So it means, to a very large extent, you need to have what you call a circular economy. So my output fits into your input, and your input fits back into my output, in the sense that along that value chain, there is value for everybody, which is a sustainable value. Now, when you look at sustainability, there are three key pillars. And when you look at those three key pillars, you will now realize how the legislation falls into those three pillars. So you have profits, and so which is businesses. And what the law does is to create an enabling framework for businesses to thrive and make profit. So you have legislations and policies for SMEs, taxation policies and all that within that pigeonhole of profits. Now when you look at the planet, the resources for production comes from the planet. How do you sustain these resources so that you don't only create value today, but you create value for tomorrow? So you are looking at waste management, you're looking at pollution, you're looking at recycling, you're looking at what Lagos State is doing now, open defecation, end of open defecation by the year 2025 or year 2030. Now, critically also, the third P is the people. When you look at social justice, and like the Honourable Speaker actually said, the employees are a key cog in this value chain. So social justice, what are you looking at? International best practice in terms of labour practices. And do you want your country to become a dumping ground in terms of labour practices? Slave labour, child labour, social safety, like Pension Reform Act, the informal sector. These are all areas where the law comes in to actually say, hold on, let's create a legal framework and let's run with it to ensure that everyone in the value chain of life has got value to add and receive value. I would like to use some practical examples to see how the law has actually created value. Between 2014 and 2018, we had a dip in terms of ease of doing business and all that. But that has suddenly picked up because a lot of work that PEBEC did in terms of executive orders, and more importantly, if you look at the 2020 Companies Allied Matters Act, it has drastically changed and revolutionized the way companies are run in Nigeria. And so if you then step back a bit and look at the National Action Plan Report 7.0 of the first quarter, which ended in March, you will see that there's been an increment in the number of companies that have been incorporated, up to 9% as of March this year. Now, you can then also tie that with trademark registration Because what is happening is that you have a lot of startup in the tech sector. So they're not only registering their companies fast enough, now they're automatically registering their trademarks using the IMAS system that's been implemented by a trademark registry. So you can see how clearly legislation has actually created value for everyone by creating a platform, making it easy for businesses to be registered and for them to get some other additional values. The NBA and SBL, the Nigerian Economic Study Group clearly understands that there's a need to actually be involved in the process of lawmaking. So what they've done in collaboration with the National Assembly, they've created a group called NASPA, National Assembly Business Economic Roundtable, and created a committee and cohorts of thematic experts. I am part of that group. And in the past 1 year, we've reviewed about 3 bills and had stakeholders workshops to actually review those bills. What we did last month was the Food and Safety Bill, where we looked at it and said, we can't be talking of food and safety bill in this day and age without an element of sustainability. So food and safety must be from the farm to when it hits my dining table. In that value chain, there has to be sustainability. So we sat down with the Ministry of Health, NAFDAC, SON, and had a heated conversation somewhere in Abuja 3 weeks ago. Today, we have another stakeholders forum for the franchise bill, but because I had to be here, I couldn't join in that. So there's that collaboration, and now we're looking at things and saying, hold on, we can't sit back again and just watch this happen as business as usual, and then we complain at the end of the day. We need to be involved in the process, from the cradle to the grave of every bill. And so that is one area that the SBL and the NASBA and the private sector is having some type of collaboration. Having said that, while I agree, but I also think that our biggest problem is not the bills or the regulations. We probably have most bills, if you think about it, or laws. And to be fair to this present National Assembly, the rate at which they've churned out bills is amazing. And for that, I think we should give the Honourable Speaker a round of applause. Again, I'm speaking from a point of knowledge because I see what they churn out. For me, the biggest issue we have is implementation and creating sustainable, independent institutions that can run on their own with the mindset that they are enablers and value creators, not antagonists. So we must typically sit back and look at some institutions that have excelled. So in this room, you have a set of people, you're either an employer or an employee. So employment and relationship matters to everyone here. So if you think about it, the principal legislation that regulates employment relations in Nigeria is over 40 years old without amendment. That's the Labour Act. Even that Labour Act creates a double jurisdiction in terms of employment relationships because you have the workers and you have the non-workers. Perchance, if we had not amended the third alteration had not happened, right? With the powers granted the National Industrial Code, the revolution, whether I have my issue with National Industrial Code, I think sometimes it could be an unruly horse. I have that as a friend. But in the main, the value we have seen in that space is typically because that body is independent, is purposeful, is objective, and is fully committed to delivering value for everyone across the value chain. So quite apart from making laws for the fun of making laws, we need to look at implementing, strengthening our institutions. I mean, we are big up on creating strong leaders and strong people. What we need is strong institutions that will run regardless of who is the leader or who is in charge. Strong institutions, we need to look at implementation. Because you look at the Pension Reform Act, it's been so successful, but it's only a tip of the iceberg. The biggest part of the Pension Reform Act is the new regulations on the informal sector we just came out. And now if you push that and implement that fully, it's a huge resource and it will create value across the value chain for everybody and will stimulate growth in the economy. I think that's